what's going on, guys? So in case you missed it, Harry Maguire was mercilessly booed by a large section of the 77,000 capacity crowd during Manchester United's 3-1 pre-season victory over Crystal Palace at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in Australia. It was audible with every touch he took and has created plenty of headlines over the last 48 hours. First and foremost, I'd like to start off by saying that supporters who go to football matches are well within their rights to jeer whoever they want, given they forked out some hard-earned cash to be in attendance. As long as it doesn't fall into the category of racial and/or physical abuse, they're more than welcome to vent out their frustrations. Secondly, I completely refute the notion that this incident should be brushed aside given it took place off English shores. Whether you like it or not, Manchester United are very much a global brand, and the upturn of the Premier League has a lot to do with these foreign supporters. In fact, they probably have even more of a right to be aggrieved as time difference hits them hard, and I can't begin to imagine the frustration of staying up till 4 a.m. only to see players downing tools and getting their pants pulled down on a consistent basis. That being said, I find the scapegoating of Maguire on an individual level highly problematic. Does he warrant wearing the armband for the biggest club in the country? Fuck no. The bloke couldn't lead a pack of ants to a fucking picnic. I'd rather watch paint dry than listen to one of his post-match interviews, which are more often than not littered with platitudes that fans are sick of hearing following bruising defeats. Not to mention he doesn't command the respect of the dressing room and has had his leadership credentials rightly questioned by many at the club. However, the blame for this largely falls at the feet of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He bizarrely decided to appoint Maguire as captain despite the fact he'd only been at the club for 6 months and hadn't previously been given that level of responsibility at any of his former sides. Truth be told, it was often his partners at centre-half who were looked upon as the commanding presence on and off the pitch. There's a reason why incoming managers like Rangnick and Erik ten Hag have refused to strip him off the role, and that's to do with the fact that it'll only create unnecessary drama in the media and damage what is already extremely fragile confidence levels. One could argue that Maguire should take it upon himself and step down, but ultimately, he can't win as people would then say he's mentally weak and the pressure is getting to him. In situations like this, it's best to stick with the status quo rather than rock the boat. Besides, the armband is more symbolic than practical in today's game, with individuals taking the game by the scruff of the neck and rallying the troops through their personality, charisma, and performances, regardless of any labels placed upon them at an official capacity. That moves me on to my next point, which is whether or not he's good enough for Manchester United, or rather, a Manchester United side looking to play on the front foot and compete for silverware. As a starter, almost certainly not. That being said, at the time of his arrival in 2019, he, along with the much maligned Aaron Wan-Bissaka, actually fit perfectly into Solskjaer's tactics for the short term, which was to sit back and soak up pressure before hitting teams on the break. While this wasn't a viable long-term strategy as a historic giant of the game, it did lead to some brilliant big game results and a third and second place finish in the league in back-to-back seasons, with Maguire being heralded as a key man behind it all. Indeed, the general consensus just a mere 14 months ago was that had Maguire been fit towards the end of the 2020-21 season, Man United would have ended the year on a high and lifted the Europa League. Yet now he's public enemy number one and seemingly responsible for what has been a calamitous defense. While Maguire's most certainly made far too many individual errors and not been up to the required standard over the course of this year, the same can more or less be said about the entire Man United squad. They've been a completely dysfunctional side from top to bottom, and Maguire's had to play in a high line without a single natural defensive midfielder sat in front of him. Even the best in the game requires some semblance of a game plan to play to their strengths and conceal their weaknesses, whereas the polar opposite has taken place here. You only have to look at United's results in the games Maguire didn't feature in last season, which were every bit as shite as the ones he did. Personally speaking, I can somewhat handle a prolonged period of poor form, but simply cannot come to terms with a perceived lack of effort. These twats are paid more in a week than most of us make in a year, yet can't be asked to put in a shift when millions of others would kill to be in their shoes. This is exactly why I find the condemnation of Maguire perplexing. For all his faults, and believe me, there were plenty of them, he never gave the impression that he wasn't trying his best. The likes of Rashford, Martial, Pogba and Lingard ambled around the pitch like they'd literally rather be anywhere else, yet didn't have the same level of resentment spewed in their direction. While they all had to cope with their fair share of negativity, it paled in comparison to Maguire, who even saw his home life targeted by members of the public, with police as well as explosive experts called to his mansion due to fears of a potential bomb threat. I believe much of the blame for this has to go to social media. I love the banter that exists within the sport and can't stand the over-the-top political correctness constantly being shoved down our throats, but some of the memes and comments have gone way too far. It's all well and good poking fun at someone after a game, but when their every little action is magnified with people looking for the slightest flaw in order to score brownie points on the internet, you get a whole new level of toxicity. When you constantly see people paint Maguire as the worst footballer to ever walk the face of the earth, subconsciously, you almost start to believe it. I know people who don't even watch football that think Maguire's third rate on the basis of Twitter posts. Don't get me wrong, when you're in the limelight, scrutiny very much comes with the territory, but it's a bit unfair when it becomes a witch hunt due to a vicious cycle of negativity. For what it's worth, Maguire is someone that some of the best in the game, including Mourinho and Guardiola, wanted to bring into their 11, so he can't possibly be as bad as some armchair experts would have you believe. Overall, for all the chatter about mental health in contemporary society, a lot of folks seem to completely disregard it due to the fact that footballers are handsomely paid. While that is very much true, it doesn't make them any less human, and anyone would be rattled when they're constantly being belittled on every social media platform on the internet. What well and truly blew my mind was England supporters booing him during a meaningless 3-0 friendly victory versus the Ivory Coast at Wembley. This is a man who's had stellar performances in both the 2018 World Cup and 2020 Euros. Two tournaments which saw England's best results in close to half a century, and he's barely put a foot wrong for the country. I'm no fan of Southgate or his footballing philosophy, but he deserves some credit for playing 5 at the back with 2 holding midfielders, seeing as though it's brought the best out of so many in the team and gotten the results that it has. Would I like to see a more open and expansive style with the likes of Tomori coming in for Maguire? Absolutely. But as things stand, Maguire can only deal with what's in front of him, and so far for England it's been so very good. Moving forward, I expect a slight resurgence from Maguire, but believe he's more suited to a side slightly lower down the league, who could make him look like a world beater in the appropriate tactical setup. I'm interested in seeing how he gets on next season under Ten Hag, and sincerely hope him and his family aren't the victims of malicious trolls who are projecting their own insecurities onto those more successful than them. Cheers for tuning in, guys. This probably wasn't the most popular opinion in the world, and I'm probably going to get slated by Man United supporters, but it's just my honest perspective, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this subject matter as well. Personally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of the type of player that Maguire is, but at this stage, this crosses well beyond football, and is arguably a much broader societal issue. Please do share your thoughts down below, and I hope all of you have a great day ahead. Peace.